Hello, everyone. Big show today. We saw quite a spectacle over the weekend. I mean, that was just amazing in Butler, Pennsylvania. Did you catch that? If you didn't, we're going to throw you some excerpts your way today. Amazing job from Elon Musk and, of course, the former president of the United States, who stands a very good shot increasingly at becoming the next president of the United States. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. We have so much to get to today. In other words, Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. And I'm telling you, this was a game changer. This is one of those moments, right? One of those moments. This is the October surprise that the left is so worried about, in which it kind of crystallizes everything that's going on. So we're going to talk about that. We also have to talk about this hurricane horror. I mean, the idea of $750 for each person that has been stranded there in the likes of North Carolina or elsewhere. I mean, you've got another hurricane now, Milton, coming towards Florida. And the answer from the administration is that it's somehow misinformation to talk about this. It's misinformation to say, wait a second, did maybe FEMA spend a little too much money on migrants and didn't save enough of their budget? I mean, this is like basic business 101, okay? Like, you save some of your budget because the hurricane happens every stinking October, November, like this is hurricane season. You know this is coming. It's happening right before an election. I mean, what idiot would not save some money for a time like this? And yet they didn't. We're going to get to FEMA's response and now the administration's response, which is so wild. I mean, KJP, if you can stand her, saying this idiotic thing today.
It's a great question. Combating misinformation and disinformation is always critically important. It is. You heard the laydown that I gave at the top. The reason I did that at the top is because we wanted to make clear that things are available to the public, folks who are impacted, and that misinformation, disinformation is indeed dangerous. It gets in the way in what we're trying to do here.
We're going to play the whole soundbite a little bit later in the show, but in other words, what KJP is trying to tell you is if you, for 2 seconds, think that people are only getting $750 because they spent too much money on migrants, then you are misinformed. That is misinformation. It's disinformation. And so, take that New York Post, Fox, Trish Regan, anyone else who's responding with sort of this incredulous, wait a second, how can you possibly say that you're out of money? Because you know what? Money is like a fungible thing. You can move money around. I mean, you certainly tried to do so on the student loans. Did you not, Kamala Harris? Anyway, she's too busy going on the likes of Call Me Daddy, What do I say about that? It's a podcast that is not something you should be listening to. All right, we're leaving it. We're going to keep it clean for the kids. Thank you very much. Anyway, Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania for an epic return. And I'm telling you, it's sending the polls higher and higher because people are cluing in. For God's sakes, this guy, somebody tried to take out twice. Thank you very much. Just horrific, and yet he's back there on stage, as they say, getting back on the horse. I mean, he might be just a little bit crazy. He's certainly fearless. Elon Musk admires it, and here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
We can't let it happen. And one thing, they showed us how bad they are. They showed us how bad a job they do. So that's one thing we got from this 4 years. They've done the worst job. It's the worst president in the history of our country. It's the worst vice president in the history of our country. And if you watched over the last couple of days, they are doing, this is a Katrina for them. This is one of the worst, they say it's the worst job ever done on helping people through the ravages of a hurricane.
It's true. I mean, it's so unsettling. I have friends in that area. Actually, one of the people that works on our team, David, is evacuating right now as we speak, because Hurricane Milton is coming his way after he just had to withstand all that went down with Hurricane Helene. I have a very dear friend who has just had to evacuate his daughter, her entire home underwater. And the thing is like people's lives are out there on display. Block after block after block. They've lost everything. And what does Kamala have for them but $750? You understand, ladies and gentlemen, why this seems so wrong at a time like this, at a time when people are really hurting. You're going on Call Me Daddy, and you're offering $750, which, might buy them a couple of dinners, and that's that. It's really awful. But you know what? People are recognizing this. They're recognizing that this woman is way out over her skis, that Biden doesn't know what the HELL is going on. He's at the beach, she's out trying to campaign and at fundraisers, all while this is going down. And you know what keeps happening? The polls keep marching higher and higher and higher. And I'll tell you what, they may try, and I'm going to show you some sound from the former Obama campaign advisor, the guy who ran the whole shindig, and then he's now advising Kamala Harris. I'm going to show you some sound from David Axelrod, in which he kind of says the quiet part out loud, because they're hoping that the Trump supporters are not going to come out because they're underwater, quite literally, in places like Florida or North Carolina. But I'm going to tell you what, the rest of America knows what's going on right about now. And this is being reflected right now in the polls. Let me show you Polymark, one of our great sponsors on the Trish Regan Show. This is one of the prediction markets, tremendous prediction market, open 24/7, so you can check it all the time. I do check it all the time. Bad habit. Anyway, this is the presidential election winner prediction as of 2024. Fascinating chart. And take a look at who's on the bottom there at 52%. Not on the bottom. He's actually technically on top. It's just where they stacked it. 52 to 47. He is climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And why is he climbing? Because the smart money knows. The smart money knows that this stuff matters. Optics matter. And it's not just optics, all right? Let's just be really cautious about how we treat this, because I'm not like David Axelrod, and I'm not going to say that this is about votes. But I'm looking around the rest of the country, and people are saying, wait a second, who's there for me when I need it? It's not Kamala Harris, thank you very much. No, Kamala is too busy trying to, I guess if you listen to Elon Musk, shuttle votes into various counties where she needs more support and therefore is trying to expedite certain voters into the process. That's exactly what Elon is alleging. We're going to get to that. But take a look at that poll, would you, ladies and gentlemen? Polymarket, a prediction market that's putting real money to work. In other words, people are putting down the money, saying this is who I believe is going to win. And what you've started to see, it's a very close race, but Trump is breaking out. As he should. You know what? Donald Trump is going down there. He's in these disaster areas. He's working with Elon to try and bring Starlink to the people that have lost communication, and it's showing up. Here's another one. Okay, so this is the newest Yahoo YouGov poll. Trump-Harris race tightens. Take a look at this. This is the headline. And of course it's tightening. It's tightening because people feel like, wait a second, our government is there, hopefully not to police us on the day-to-day nonsense. You said this, you said that. Okay, well, we believe that's misinformation. I'm sorry. The entire job of the press should be, always historically, was supposed to be to hold government accountable, to hold establishment accountable. And nowadays, if you try and hold them accountable, somehow you're the bad guy. You're the misinformation, disinformation, despite the fact that all the misinformation, disinformation, so-called disinformation that they told us about before has been proven to be correct. I'm thinking about that laptop, that Hunter Biden laptop. I'm thinking about the dossier that turned out to be just nothing but bought and paid for opposition research by the likes of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Anyway, the latest poll out of Yahoo YouGov showing that Donald Trump is climbing and climbing and climbing. Now, they're still showing a very tight race with the likes of Kamala Harris ahead. But what's important here is that it had been 50% Kamala, 45% Donald Trump, and now today it's 48% Kamala, 46% Donald Trump. And you know what I've said on this. The people don't actually want to say who they're voting for, because you see so many of these polls are done on recorded lines. And if it's on a recorded line, then, people feel a little uncomfortable. Understandably so, especially a lot of conservatives saying, well, this is who I'm going to vote for, because then there's a public record of that. And so they don't actually tell you the truth. And thus, when you're at 48, 46, and you're Kamala Harris, I'd be running damn scared right about now. She keeps saying she's the underdog. I'd hardly say that. She's not the underdog, at least by so many of these polls in which she's quite tight. She's actually doing quite well, considering that the woman was all about bringing in people to our country over the border, despite being the so-called border czar. Oh, that's misinformation too, apparently, these days. She wasn't, quote, the border czar. I don't know what she was. She was theoretically in charge of the border, but you're not supposed to talk about that. No. By the way, we have so much more to say on that. In fact, I got to show you the soundbite from the 60 Minutes interview, because she can't answer the question. But before I do, considering all the chaos that we're in, take a look at gold. It's one of the best ways to diversify your portfolio. I have more to say on your portfolio because we have the latest results from 76 research coming up that I want to share with you. tremendous, tremendous quarter. Because, what can I say? We're smart. And this is one of the things that I've recommended over the last 20 years. It's gold. And I do think that gold is one of the best ways to diversify your portfolio. If you're looking at gold, take a look at my friends over at American Hartford Gold. They're one of the sponsors of the show. They're giving you up to $15,000 in free silver. You can call 1-844-495-1115. You can text my name, Trish. Text Trish to this number, 65532, American Hartford Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com. I got to put that on the screen for everybody, but how can you forget it, right? I think it's in the show notes. trishlovesgold.com. Go to Trish Loves Gold today for more information on how to get up to $15,000 in free silver. But look, it is the economy, right? It's the economy. And people are like, Kamala, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix it? And so she went on to 60 Minutes to do this big interview and had no answers. Kamala Harris cannot tell a very sympathetic news organization, CBS News, for whom I used to work, and trust me, they're sympathetic. She can't tell them how she's going to fix the economy. It's just, we're going to make them pay more, make the rich pay their fair share. Her favorite saying, and I love it because Bill Whitaker actually kind of tried to push her a little bit gently, right? Because again, it's CBS News. They're on her side, trust me, and watch. Ooh, Kamala, how are you going to do that? Are you going to pressure them? Are you going to tell them we're going to just shut you down because it's misinformation, disinformation if you don't agree with me? Look, and a couple things going on there. I don't disagree that in many cases you have billionaires that are getting away with way lower tax rates. In fact, we see it all the time in something that I like to call the fat cat tax loophole, the private equity tax loophole. That would be for all the donors to Kamala Harris's campaign. Thank you very much. All right. They get away with treating their income as capital gains, which is at a much lower rate. But again, shall we say, this is the donor class, the elites to Kamala Harris's campaign. These are the people that are backing her, and she's never talked about fixing it for them. No. She's going to go out to all the small business owners there and say, we're going to tax you more and you more and you more. And oh, you're sitting on that farm out there? Well, we think this farm is like worth this rather than this. Oh gosh, she might be at odds with Letitia James. Think about it. More on Letitia coming up because Kamala thinks Mar-a-Lago's worth $1 billion, therefore you should be paying $1 billion worth of taxes. You understand where this is going, right, ladies and gentlemen? She wants to tax everyone who she thinks has one stinking dollar in their pocket to death. And then she's going to, keep importing people into the country? Because it's pretty outrageous the amount of money that FEMA's been spending importing people into the country. And I know we're not supposed to talk about this. This is disinformation. This is misinformation. I'm sorry, but the numbers are there, okay? And KJP said it back in 2024, and she said it again in 2022. Just exactly what's going on in terms of paying for, this is FEMA, okay? This is their budget. And yet FEMA doesn't have the capability or the executive functioning capability even to get to first base when it comes to rescuing people in places that really, really need rescuing. This is government gone wild. This is a bunch of bureaucrats sitting around saying, how great do we look? And yet they look really bad right about now. Really bad. You know who looks good? Quick aside, Rob and I over at 76 Research, take a look at those numbers. We just crunched the numbers for the 3 months ending 9/30/2024. And nice consumer, financials, utilities, real estate, technology stocks, all of these things way, way up and away. If you look at the median stock return, take a look at that 10.8% versus the S&P index of 5.9%. Really, really good stuff. Just a quick reminder, everyone, to go over to 76 Research. You can sign up, get the information. If nothing else, get the free stuff. But I highly, highly encourage you to take a look at the stuff that really is of value, and that would be the model portfolios. Let me see if I can find this. I'll put it up. There we go. So these are the model portfolios. 76research.com. There are 3 model portfolios there for you. Lots of great stock ideas, 10 to 15 stocks in each of those portfolios. This is my baby. I started it with my dear friend Rob, who I've known for many, many years. He's worked like 20 some odd years on Wall Street. He's run billions of dollars, is super smart, knows how to pick stocks. And I thought, what if we could do this in a way that's not just, hedge fund to hedge fund? What if we can actually bring real market information to the masses and do so cheaply, right? It's cheap for you, but we sell it on scale. Kind of a different business model. And And he agreed to do this. And I'm just thrilled because we've had so much success. The portfolios are soaring. So take a look at that. Again, really, really good numbers with, let me see if I can bring this up for you guys. Again, take a look at that. Consumer, the financial pick, two of them, up 24%. Utilities were up 24% there. Real estate up 23%. I mean, this is fantastic. Really, really fantastic. So I want to share this information with you. It's important for me to share this information with you. I created this for you. So go to 76research.com today, 76research.com. Sign up for those portfolios. We'll get 76 Research. You can get it actually. Code word dollar for $1 a month. No harm, no foul. You can cancel anytime if you don't like it. You'll get the 76 Research report, and then I think it's like an extra $22, $23 if you add on one of those model portfolios per month. It really works out. And again, the idea here is to start building this equity value, right? So you need to pick the right stocks. But this is tragic, what we're seeing from Kamala Harris. Absolutely, positively tragic. I mean, the horror, right? The hurricane horror that you're seeing. Tom Cotton, I love him. He had the, you know what, to call it all out on NBC over the weekend. So Senator Cotton sat down with this anchor, this NBC News anchor, and he gave her a piece of his mind and called out her BS, shall we say. But before we get to that, just think about the BS that's out there. First of all, Kamala is saying, we got $750 for everyone. Woohoo!
Of dollars to foreign countries that most people have never heard of. They're offering.
That was not Kamala. that is Trump. But let's go back actually to Donald Trump because he's making a very valid point. We'll go to Kamala in a second. Here he is saying, woohoo, right, on Kamala's $750.
Of dollars to foreign countries that most people have never heard of. They're offering them $750. They've been destroyed. These people have been destroyed. The one young lady washed, you saw that with her son. I mean, pretty, I wish I never saw it, but just washed away. Your son was washed away with the grandparents. And so sad. And they're giving them $750. And think of it. We give foreign countries hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're handing North Carolina $750. If you want a president who won't even try to save you when the floodwaters are rising, vote for Kamala. She's not the right person. Look, you know what? If they did a good job, I wouldn't have run. To be honest with you, I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to. If I thought they were doing an even modestly good job, I wouldn't have run, but I saw right from the beginning, grossly incompetent, and I was right about that, and I decided to run, and we're doing really well.
Let's go to Kamala for a second, because really, he's not wrong. It's $750, and then you compare and contrast what they've given to migrants coming into the country, what they've given to Ukraine. I realize, okay, like I get it. Maybe they didn't take it or steal it from, in terms of FEMA, from the migrant budget to it. I get it. Okay. That's what they're like. Oh, this is disinformation. But the point is, like, that money's out there and they're not using it for the right purposes. Let's go to Kamala.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
I'm sorry, but like 750 isn't going to cut it. It's not enough. And I know people there that have lost everything. And they have lots of friends who've lost everything. And people can't just rebuild like that. In many cases, insurance is not going to cover any of this. All right, so people are really hurting. This is the time when you need the federal government. You are an American taxpayer. Thank you very much. So why aren't they helping? Mayorkas saying, sorry, we're like out of money. So much for Milton on the way.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
You don't have the money to make it through the season? The season happens every stinking season, okay, buddy? It happens every year. It's called hurricane season. When I was a correspondent, actually back at CBS, I remember, was it 2005? I had Katrina, I had Wilma, I had Rita. I mean, there were a whole slew of hurricanes, right? We went and covered every hurricane. It's called hurricane season. So if I'm running FEMA, guess what? I actually try to budget some money for hurricane season. But instead, what are they doing? Well, this one on Twitter, I want to share an excerpt of a reporter that caught up with some people that are in New York who are living off the FEMA funds. And this is not pretty. No. Totalmente en español. Yo hablo español. This is all in Spanish. There's a translation. I'll actually translate some of it for our audio listeners on Apple Podcasts. Here we go.
¿Y por cuánto tiempo han estado quedándose aquí en el Rojo Hotel?
Desde que yo llegué, julio,
¿Cuántos meses es eso?
como 7 meses.
¿Y han tenido que pagar alojamiento?
No, nada, no he pagado nada.
Es 100% gratis.
Sí.
¿Y le dan almuerzo, desayuno?
Sí, le dan como...
Okay, so for the kids, they give everything. They give the diapers.
Y ahí en el hotel hacen limpieza de la
What, cleaning the
cuarto.
hotel room?
Sí, hacen.
Oh, they clean the hotel room for us every day. Wish I had that.
Todos los días hacen eso.
Every
Sí,
day?
todos los
Yep.
días.
Every day.
¿Han podido conseguir trabajo
Have you been
ustedes?
able to get a job?
No.
Yo no.
No,
Si ustedes
no.
tuvieran un problema de medicina, ¿cómo podrían
What do
recibir
you do if you
ayuda
have a
con
medical
eso?
problem?
Bueno, con una tarjeta, la del seguro de Medicare.
Oh, there's this thing called Medicare.
Y eso nos abarca el seguro
It
que
covers the
nosotros
children's
necesitamos para los
needs as
niños,
well.
nosotros nos
You
beneficiamos
get
de eso.
benefits from
¿Se
that.
sintieron apoyados gracias a nuestro presidente
Are
Joe
you
Biden?
thankful to our president for this?
Bueno, sí.
Oh, of course.
Sí, porque
Of course, because
si no estamos trabajando ni nada, él es el que nos está
no
ayudando.
estamos
prácticamente.
trabajando. We're not working. He's the one helping us. Okay, great. Like, you know what? Wonderful. And yet, we can't afford this, ladies and gentlemen. We can't afford this because when Mayorkas tells us there's no more money for hurricane season and we see headlines like this, let me read them to you. Department of Homeland Security announces $380 million they're sending to migrants. We've got New York City to get $104.6 million for FEMA for asylum seekers. We've got Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than $77 million in congressional funding for communities receiving migrants. You've got Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than 12 million. These are small numbers. I get it compared to what's really needed. FEMA awards, here's a big one, $110 million to the Emergency Food and Shelter Program to assist migrants. Department of Homeland Security announces $300 million in direct funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million to a new competitive awards process. Okay, so they've been spending money. They certainly have been spending money. It's just that, well, now all the money's gone at a rather important time in terms of the election cycle too. We're going to get to that in a second because it's horrific what this one guy said who's advising Kamala, who used to advise Obama. And, I realize KGP wants you to think that this is all wrong, that this is misinformation. But let's play. I'm going to play some sound from the past, a blast from the past. But first, consider what she said today. This is minutes ago coming into us from the press room. There, somebody's like, trying to brown nose a bit. Oh, what do you do about the misinformation? She's like, oh, yes, that is a problem. It is a problem.
It's a great question. Combating misinformation and disinformation is always critically important. It is. You heard the laydown that I gave at the top. The reason I did that at the top is because we wanted to make clear that things are available to the public, folks who are impacted, and that misinformation, disinformation is indeed dangerous. It gets in the way in what we're trying to do here. It does. And there's been a lot of falsehoods. And let me just fact check a couple of things because it's really important. It is wrong, it is dangerous, and I also called out there are important people who have power, privilege, who are spreading these falsehoods, and they need to stop. They need to stop doing that. So, disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact.
I don't think that people are alleging, KJP, that it's being diverted. I think they're citing the fact that Mayorkas said just last week he has no more money left, that there is no money to actually pay to help the hurricane victims. Not that it's being diverted, but that you're out of funds and that you got no more on the way. That's the concern.
Another falsehood. FEMA confiscating Helene survivor property. That's false. That is not true. The fact is FEMA cannot seize your property or land, period. Another falsehood that's out there. FEMA will only provide $750 to disaster survivors to support their recovery. That is a falsehood. That is not true. The fact is, this is an upfront payment for urgent needs like food and medication. Many survivors will qualify for more assistance. Another falsehood, FEMA, FAA are restricting airspace in North Carolina. That is not true. That's false. The fact is there are no airspace restrictions in North Carolina. So we're going to continue to combat these. It's important to combat them. But people who have a microphone and a podium should not continue to spread this falsehood. It is dangerous. It is incredibly dangerous.
Is the administration
Okay.
tracking that?
Let me be very clear. What I myself am saying, and I think a lot of others are saying, is that FEMA had a budget. And FEMA misused its budget because it spent all its money. It spent all its money trying to address the very severe border crisis. Okay, now I'm not saying that that wasn't severe and there was not a humanitarian need. For sure there was. Believe me, there was. It's all the more reason why we need a strong border so that you don't create the wrong kinds of incentives that bring people here that we can't actually cover. But let's be very clear. FEMA has said it's completely out of money. It says there's nothing left, for goodness sakes. I'm not making that up. This is Mayorkas.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
You don't have the money, so you didn't plan because you spent it all on a whole bunch of other stuff that maybe you needed to do for humanitarian reasons. I mean, I would argue that you should have put the wall up. I would argue that Kamala should have done her job as the borders are and actually prevented all those people from coming here. Elon Musk would say there was a reason to the madness, so to speak, method to the madness. We'll get to that. But here's KJP saying, okay, yeah, this is what FEMA was spending its money on.
No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
Okay. So FEMA money was going to support humanitarian relief for migrants. Let's not pretend that that didn't happen. They were quite proud of the headlines at the time, all the money that they were spending to help the migrants. And now suddenly when it seems it's time that actual American citizens might actually need the money and the assistance from FEMA, FEMA says it's out of funds. Again, scary political possible reason that David Axelrod alluded to. We'll get to that in a second. But first, Senator Cotton's not having it. Like, he went on the weekend show. You know, NBC's got this Meet the Press show that used to be quite legendary, but has gone downhill in more ways than one. And he's like, yeah, that's not right, what you're saying. The anchor tried to allege that somehow this is misinformation, any idea that somehow any money might have been used for migrants. Now FEMA's out of money. That couldn't possibly be the case, that they actually spent all the money. And they're calling out the New York Post and others. Of course, New York Post has had this right before. Shall we say? I do believe the New York Post got its Twitter account shut down because one New York Post was at odds with the likes of the 51X spooks that said, no, there's nothing to see here in terms of Hunter Biden's laptop. But you know what? The New York Post was right. And here's the deal. We know the money was spent. You can sit there and argue all day long that it wasn't redirected. We're not saying it was redirected. We're saying you spent the freaking money, okay? There's no money left. You told us that you have no cash on hand to help people. $750. I'm sorry, if you wanted to help, Kamala Harris, if you wanted to help, you know you could, but you're too busy doing the Call Me Daddy podcast. Here's Tom Cotton.
My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. Now, I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
And that's frightening. Because what do you think your federal government's there for? But to protect you, to secure the borders, dare I say, and to make sure that when all A2LL breaks loose, you know what, that someone's there and someone's got your back. And yet Kamala can't help you? What good is she? In all seriousness, what good is she? Now you have to think about something else. You have to think about the political implications of this. I hate to have to go here, but David Axelrod, who ran Obama's campaign, he brought it up. This sound came out on Friday. I mean, I was just stunned. Because to boil this down, the aid to victims of Hurricane Helene, the victims that are coming from Milton, to boil this down to politics is pretty damn disgusting. And yet this is exactly where he went. And he talked about, I think, what all of us fear. This idea that somehow the government is only there to help those that are in their corner. I've seen it before. I've seen it in Venezuela. I couldn't believe this. You know, people were describing to me how, for example, you'd get a box of food and staples, et cetera, every week delivered to you by the Maduro administration, but only provided that you were part of the club, right? You know, you sign a paper, you support Maduro. You could get free housing, can get free housing in Venezuela, provided no one in your building votes for anyone other than Maduro. So if you get the sense and anybody in your building might be voting for the opposition, you need to hurry them out and expose them quickly because you might lose your housing. I mean, this is kind of scary stuff, right? This is a slippery slope. Anyway, before we totally go there, let's listen to David Axelrod, who just lays it right out. Okay, well, you know, North Carolina may not be as close as we thought because the Kamala Harris people are going to vote. And the Trump people have been flooded out of their homes and can't get back.
State in the country. Here's my question about North Carolina. You had these killer storms, which, by the way, was a third big story this week.
Yes,
these
another
storms. And there's a lot of displacement in western North Carolina. Now, Asheville is a blue dot in that area.
I was going to say, Asheville's
voters there.
Yeah,
but those voters in Asheville are they're you know, the kind of voters who will figure out a way to vote. You know, they're upscale, kind of liberal voters, and they're probably going to figure out a way to vote. I'm not sure a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in western North Carolina in the mountains there are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign. So that's I don't know how that's all going to play out, but it's an unpredictable element in North Carolina that has made it maybe a little more interesting. But just in this
interesting, It's made it more interesting. It makes it more likely that Kamala Harris might actually win in North Carolina because the Trump voters have been flooded out of their homes and she's not there to help them. FEMA's not there to help them. FEMA spent all the money. It's out of money. It can't help them. This is what is truly feared, right? This is the worst case scenario. This is why Elon Musk keeps saying this could be the last election because of what they're doing. Listen, guys, this is truly messed up. I'm going to put on a website here. It's called Project 2025. Before you get all worked up, because I know that Trump is not necessarily a fan of this. It's only because, by the way, the ideas are really good. It's only because 25truths.org. It's only because he's sick of being like tarnished with this. Somehow the left is making this, oh, this is all you. It's not him. It's actually Heritage Foundation. And there's some good ideas in there. And one of the main tenets of this is this idea of big government just trying to crush everyone. Like what we've seen, right, with the lawfare. Or possibly what David Axelrod just alluded to. The idea that somehow they're not rushing to get in there with any kind of aid because these are not the voters that they want coming to the ballot boxes come November. I mean, this is sick stuff. But you got to guard against it. So anyway, Heritage is trying to do that. Go check out 25's Truths when you get a second. Or you can go to project2025.org. Project 2025. I'll put that up as well for you. Project 2025. I'm not the best at typing and talking, but there you go. So that's another place where you can find more information. But this is really scary. I mean, David Axelrod saying the quiet part out loud. You should not be saying that stuff. I realize, I think people are very forthcoming on these podcasts. It's one of the things I like about them. There's no prompter. There's no scripts. There's no tight commercial breaks that we have to worry about. So yeah, maybe you get a little bit more information. He kind of went somewhere that he frankly should not have ever gone. But I think it's important for us to see, because that's a little bit of insight, right, into what they're actually thinking and what the method to the madness might really be. And it's super alarming. I mean, it's super alarming. And this is why I think we need to be so concerned about this actual lawfare that's going on. I mean, it's real lawfare. I mean, think about this. There's the MSNBC host that's totally stunned because he had a guest on the show that had been all about impeach. He'd been an impeachment witness, right, in the impeachment trial for Donald Trump. He was all about getting rid of Trump. And now all of a sudden he's like, whoa. This is Ambassador Gordon Sondland. I want to show you this because look at the MSNBC host reaction. He's kind of shocked, right? He can't believe that he's got somebody on his show that actually wanted to impeach Trump, who's now saying completely the opposite. Why is he saying the opposite? Because the Biden-Harris team is completely out of control, and that's scary, and that's not where we should be. This came out last week. I wish I had shown it to you last week. We just had so much news coming our way, but it's important for you to see, especially in the context of what's going on with Letitia James, what's going on with Jack Smith. Let's take a look. This is Gordon Sondland. He's on MSNBC with Ari Melber here. Listen.
A no for you after that. Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct, and do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it, and I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you, Ambassador, I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th. I did. And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seem to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any policy.
I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
So I want to ask Sarah,
if you want to ask me what those are, I'm happy.
In other words, he's seen so many attacks on democracy, and they're there. By the way, subscribe, share, like, make a comment, all that stuff. By the way, we're live, so I'm going to get to your comments momentarily. Careful what you write, because I can see it all in real time. Anyway, that's the ambassador saying, you know what? Like, it's gotten that bad. This has eclipsed anything that I would have ever anticipated. It is that bad. They are trying so desperately to just strangle anyone who is opposing them. And they're doing this all in the name of, what's the truth? You know, it used to be, one of the reasons I got into this profession to begin with, it used to be that the press would hold the establishment accountable. You would hold politicians accountable. You would hold businesses accountable. You stood for something. You stood for what was right and wrong. You stood for the truth. I stand for all of that. And I look at what's going on in the media today, and I'm truly stunned. I get it. It's a big business. But business, the media business that is, has gotten so in bed with the Democrat Party that it's becoming increasingly scary and dangerous. And you got Clinton out again over the weekend saying, you know, we need to do something because we can't have them controlling the message, anybody else controlling the message. She's already talked about putting in place criminal penalties for individuals that are speaking misinformation, disinformation. I'm like, what the heck? Are we Russia? Are we North Korea? I know that sounds extreme, but for goodness sakes, when we start saying you can't speak your mind, you can't give another opinion, you can't give another side, what have we descended into? They don't care. They just want to be in charge. And Donald Trump threatens their ability to be in charge. And so they're going after him with everything they got. I mean, consider Jack Smith. You know, he came out with that new impeachment thing the other day. They unsealed it 30 days before the election. I'm like, for goodness sakes, don't they actually have some rules? Like, you know, you're not supposed to do this 60 days before. Doesn't bother him one single bit. I mean, it really is now bordering on election interference, because I'll tell you one thing, they could have done this earlier. They could have timed it differently. Instead, they timed it specifically until now. But the funny thing happened on the way to the forum. No one cares because it has become nothing but noise, more noise, more noise. You're like, oh, it's the little boy who cried wolf. Jack Smith, how many cases have you got? I can't even keep track. I say to my team, I'm like, wait, what's this? What's this? I mean, you got Letitia, you got Alvin, you got Fanny, you got Jackie Boy. Donald Trump's not happy.
Yeah, he's a deranged person. I call him deranged Jack Smith. He just lost the big documents case. That was the biggest of them all. They said the documents case, and they said that was the toughest of them all. Let me tell you, we just won it, and it was won strongly and completely, and it was a total victory in Florida. And he is a person who is trying, and he works for Kamala, and he works for Joe. This was a weaponization of government, and that's why it was released 30 days before the election. And it's nothing new in there, by the way, nothing new. They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They should have never allowed the information to come before the public. But they did that because they want to hurt you with the election. It's pure election interference to get an incompetent...
Okay, so there he goes. And he's making this allegation that they had their agenda and that they're trying to interfere with the election process. And you start to wonder after a while, given the time, given the nearly $500 million fine, they're trying to bankrupt him for a private transaction. I'm telling you, that thing's getting thrown out of court. Mark my words. And Letitia, she's going to go the way of Mike Nifong back in North Carolina. Remember the Duke lacrosse case? Very, very different cases, but I spent 6 weeks on the ground covering that, and the similarities are really, really striking. Two politically hungry DAs. We're going to get to that in a second, but again, another quick shout out. With all this chaos, right? You're like, what do I invest in? What do I invest in? We've got some ideas at 76 Research. One of the things that we look at is gold. And I really feel very, very strongly that gold is a very strong way to diversify your portfolio against this sinking dollar, right? You get more inflation because the Fed just came out and said it's lowering rates again. And that's the trajectory we're on. So in this inflationary environment, in an environment where the rest of the world is like, we don't know if we can trust the United States of America. Everybody's trying to get away from treasury bonds. By the way, creeping up yields on the 10-year coming up above 10% today. Listen, if people don't want treasuries, where do they go? Well, you have only to look at Poland. Poland's now like, woohoo, we got all our gold. We have more gold than the UK right now. That headline came out over the weekend. They're quite proud of it. Well, this is something that's happening with a lot of countries. So there's multiple reasons to be looking at gold, whether it be countries that want to diversify out of treasuries because they feel safer having gold, whether it be just the reality of all this money printing, whether it be the reality and money printing to come, right? Because this debt load is unsustainable, 35 trillion and counting, or whether it be the Fed lowering rates again. We are in this printing bonanza. So that's one of the reasons you want to look at gold. Text Trish to 65532 for up to $15,000 in free silver from one of our show sponsors, American Hartford Gold. Up to $15,000 in free silver by texting Trish, my name, TRISH, to 65532. You can call them at 1-844-495-1115 or just go to trishlovesgold.com. trishlovesgold.com. I do. And you'll get more information. Just sign up so you can get the information and figure out what the $15,000 free offer it is for qualifying offers, I should point out. But, look, gold is part of what we hold in our portfolio over at 76. It's something that we very much, Rob and I, believe in and have believed in for a long time. A lot of people will be like, no, it has no intrinsic value. Part of that is also the financial community that doesn't make a whole lot of money off of you buying gold. So I think there's some of that goes into the equation. But I do want to just remind you, I'm trying to find the chart right now. Oh, here we go, because it's just a tremendous month. Ending 9/30/24. Take a look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the portfolio. I mean, just amazing model portfolio performance, top stocks by sector and total return for the third quarter 2024. You get our consumer pick up 25%. We've got our financial pick up 24%, our utilities pick up 24%, real estate up 23%, and so it goes, right? So the median stock in our portfolios was up nearly 11%. The S&P 500 index up 5.9%. So I'm not kidding when I tell you, I think we kind of know what we're doing. I've been covering markets for 20 some odd years. I started in finance long before I was ever a journalist. And Rob, of course, has been picking stocks for all that time. And the whole idea behind this model is to try and bring really great quality research to everyone, right? So 76research.com, that is where you need to go. You can get the model portfolios there. You can sign up for the whole shebang, which I encourage you to do, because if you get one of the Founders Club, then you're going to get all the portfolios, plus you're going to get the 76 report. So that's the best value opportunity. But you can also just sign up for one of the individual portfolios, whether it's Basic Income Builder, whether it's Inflation Protection, or whether it's American Resilience. Gosh, Rob texted me this morning, one of our American Resilience stock picks was up 9% today, earlier in the session. It's probably up even more right now. So that's the good news. Go to 76 Research so you don't lose out on this. 76research.com. Get all of those portfolios. Best deal is Founders Club. Best deal is Founders Club. But listen, this team, I mean, it's actually pretty frightening there, what we're witnessing in real time there on Capitol Hill. So they're freaking out. I get it, right? They're not going to win this the easy way. So what are they trying to do? What's up their sleeve? Letitia James has shown us what she's capable of. Jack Smith has shown us what he is capable of. Alvin Bragg, Fannie Willis. I think they're all going down in history, in infamy, shall we say, for their really massive overreach as the Ambassador Sondland was just explaining on MSNBC, this massive overreach where they've just gone too far. I mean, she promised us she would. Remember Letitia, with all her promises about how she was going to go after Trump? The whole idea was get him. What kind of world are we living in, for goodness sakes?
I've taken on powerful interests like developers. I've taken on legislators. I've taken on landlords. I've taken on powerful interests in the city of New York because I believe in a good fight. And right now, what we need is someone who understands that you should not be afraid, not be fearful of Donald Trump. We should take him down. We should sue him all the way to bankruptcy. We should investigate his business interests. We should investigate his business holdings. We should investigate whether or not
Listen, she did it all. She's nauseating, so I can't listen to too much of her. Neither can you, I'm sure. But she did all that. That was a campaign speech when she was running for the position of Attorney General there in New York. She was elected on this promise that she was going to go after Trump and get Trump. Well, Elise Stefanik is saying, whoa, and she's demanding that she be disbarred immediately. I'm all for it because this is not something that works in society. Look, the appellate judges get it. We've been talking about this here on the show, so forgive me if you've already seen this sound, but even if you've seen it, watch it again. Think about what's going on here because these judges really have no use for the AG and her lawyer that's trying to argue this case in the appellate court. I mean, I kind of feel bad for the lady. She gets shut down in 5 seconds. Judith Vale.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Well, several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Well, maybe I'll take that first, Your Honor.
You see where they're going. So any day now, this whole thing is going to get reversed. This Letitia James $489 million penalty. I mean, this is insane. Because they're saying he fraudulently valued parts of his real estate empire for financial gain. I mean, who is it for this judge who clearly doesn't own a Mar-a-Lago? I mean, maybe he will now with all the speaking gigs he's going to get, right? I mean, this judge and this Letitia James, how is it their right to judge what Mar-a-Lago or Trump Tower or anything else is worth? I mean, if Deutsche Bank, the bank that was lending the money to Donald Trump, makes a decision that it's worth this, then they're taking on that risk. It's a private transaction. They're trying to somehow equate this with some sort of public damage. Like this is somehow damaging to the public. Maybe damaging because, I don't know, like he made money and he can't make money because he's Donald Trump and you hate his guts. I'm sorry. Not flying. So one of the lawyers, Justice John Higgett, said, I'm sorry, what's being described sounds an awful lot like a potential commercial dispute between private actors. Another one, Justice Peter Moulton, said there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in inferring in these private transactions where people don't claim harm. And then they went on to say they need guardrails. In other words, they need to protect the public from the likes of these Letitia Jameses, these rabid AGs that want to make their careers on this stuff. Then you have Justice David Friedman saying, I can't find another example of anything like this where you apply this fraud law so broadly. Quote, you've got two really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money. Right? So in other cases, he said, the public was involved. It involved damage to the public, damage to consumers. And, quote, you don't have anything like that here. And this Vale lady working for Letitia is trying to say, oh, no, there's really deceptively hidden risks in all this. I'm sorry. You know what? This is really frightening because if you're trying to tell me what I heard earlier from David Axelrod and that it somehow doesn't really, it's not going to, North Carolina, we don't have to worry about now because those Trump supporters, they've been forced out of their homes and they can't vote. And the wealthier people in that particular district, they'll still go and vote for Kamala Harris. So we don't need to worry about North Carolina anymore. You couple that with what we're seeing from the court. This thing is going to get reversed, mark my words. And I think that Letitia is going to lose her law license over this. She certainly should. It will definitely get reversed. But in light of that, think about what's going on. And you think about this possible, quote unquote, civil war that's brewing in America. And this is an example of it. Do you really want to be represented by a government that doesn't care about you? that's willing to literally ignore you in your time of need because you don't vote the way they want? How are we any different than Venezuela or the former USSR? Elon Musk says this is the last election. This is the last chance for Americans to actually speak their minds, because if we don't get the chance now, if we don't actually do what we need now, the America that you know and love is not going to exist anymore. Here he is. Let's see him with his very grave warning. He also jumped on stage and called himself Dark MAGA because he was, wearing the black T-shirt and this and that. It was a tremendous, tremendous weekend there in Butler, and just amazing, amazing that the president had the confidence and the wherewithal and the stamina to get back up on that stage. I mean, there's no such thing as PTSD clearly in his brain, but here's Elon.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm Dark MAGA. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight. Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave.
That's the word I was looking for.
And there's no truer test than courage under fire. So who do you want representing America? Yeah, absolutely.
It's wild. Absolutely wild. I mean, just tremendous to see. Brave. That is exactly the word I was looking for. Truly, truly brave to get back out there on stage. And brave of Elon, too. Listen, there are real security risks at a time like this. But he's making the point that this is sort of the very last chance that we get as Americans to do something, to speak our mind. Because if we don't actually take this opportunity, what happens next? He's kind of turning it on its head. I used to get annoyed with the left saying, this is the last chance. But, I'm looking at it now and I'm there. Like, this is the last chance. I've lived it. I've breathed it. I've seen it. If you say something that's out of step with what the mainstream media and the establishment wants, you're done. Okay? You're absolutely done. And they've tried to take out Trump legally. You get crazy people that literally have tried to take him out, and yet he's still there. So Elon has a warning.
There's only 2 days left to register to vote in Georgia and Arizona. 48 hours. Like, text people now. Now. Oh, and then make sure they actually do vote. If they don't, this will be the last election.
Wow. So here's what he's worried about. And I realize the left is going to say this is misinformation, disinformation, whatever, but let's just talk about the numbers. He's worried about the number of people that are coming into this country and being sort of fast-tracked to citizenship. Let's take a look at them. So the number of migrants that have come in, this is the unauthorized migrant population percent increase since 2001, 401% in Georgia, 446% in North Carolina, 241% in Pennsylvania. You notice how they're choosing some of these swing states here. Arizona, 734%, ladies and gentlemen. Nevada, 562%. Michigan, 775%. Wisconsin, 467%, okay? And the scary thing is, the number of people, for example, in Georgia, that have been given this sort of fast track to citizenship, it's somewhere around 150,000 this year. 150,000. Think about this. Trump lost Georgia to Biden by 12,000 votes last time around. So 150,000, that matters. That's a big deal. So I know we look at the good stuff, and there's lots of good stuff. I like the Michigan numbers. You know, you look at where Trump was versus where he was in 2020 versus 2024. He's up 24 points from there. He's in a dead heat there with Kamala Harris. We saw the YouGov numbers out of Utah, out of Yahoo. I mean, we're watching Utah too, but listen, there's a lot of good news. The poly market numbers, a lot of good news. He's ahead there in Pennsylvania. You look at Wisconsin, he's ahead. The Trafalgar Group has another poll that just came out on Friday. Look, there's a lot to celebrate. But I'm not kidding. Like, if you think about what Elon's talking here, we have every reason to be really, really concerned. And every reason to worry that this is the last chance at preserving our country. A quick shout out to another one of our great sponsors. You know what? When you subscribe to our sponsors, it helps us here on the show. So just remember that when you're like, oh my gosh, she's got another commercial. We love our commercials, right? We wouldn't be here without our commercials. And I actually love Balance of Nature because I desperately need vitamin D. What can I say? I live in the Northeast. We're going into the winter season. It's the reality of living in the Northeast and having this pale Irish skin. So I take my vitamin D supplement, my fruits and veggies every single day from Balance of Nature. They ship them to me. You can take this too. You can get it with free shipping and get 35% off. I'll tell you, there's a lot of discounts out there online, but this is the best one. So forget anything else that you've seen. Forget all those 20% off coupons. This is 35% off plus free shipping for Balance of Nature with discount code, my name, Trish, T-R-I-S-H. Go to balanceofnature.com today, balanceofnature.com. Type in discount code Trish. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. Try that today. Listen, I feel terrific on it. I feel terrific. I love Balance of Nature. So many people have come up to me and said, oh, you know, I take it too. So I'm happy to hear that. Really, really good stuff. Balance of Nature is good stuff. But listen, we got a lot going on. This is a very, very important election. We got less than a month. And so Elon's right. Like, anyone you know that hasn't registered to vote needs to register to vote. I am worried about places that have been obliterated by this hurricane. I spoke to a friend today who managed to extract his daughter and a bunch of her friends, thank goodness, out of the St. Pete's area of Florida because you got Milton on the way. Her house was already underwater. I mean, this is scary stuff, frankly, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, if she doesn't have an absentee ballot, if her friends don't have absentee ballots, how are they going to vote? Will they be back there in time for the first Tuesday in November? These are real questions. I think it's good for him. I think, you know, look, the numbers are on his side. There's a lot to celebrate in a moment like this, but there's a lot to be concerned about as well. And my heart goes out to all of those families. And of course, to one of our team members here on the Trish Regan Show, David, we're wishing you well. He's in the evacuation process as we speak. We don't ask a lot from our government, do we? We don't really expect much from our government. We like a small government, right? We like it that way. But when push comes to shove and when you're really in need, that's when you need it. And if they're not willing to show up for you because you don't subscribe to their politics, that's truly alarming. It's truly frightening. And that's not the kind of country we ever have been, nor should we ever be. Kamala Harris is too busy on, you know, what's the thing? Call her daddy. I mean, for goodness sakes, kind of an obscene podcast. That's where she's spending her time. You know, there's a lot of things I could say and I won't say, given her past boyfriend experience. We won't go there. Like I said, we're keeping it clean for the kids. But, you know, what's the point of that? Really and truly, what is the point of that? She can't speak off teleprompter. Here's a fun one for you. Did you see Kamala? I think her teleprompter went down here, guys. I really think this was a teleprompter issue because she got up to speak and suddenly, like, something blanked. Either she couldn't read anymore, the teleprompter went down, and she just kept reciting the number 32. You got to see it.
Remember his number, 32.
election.
Come on.
So 32 days. 32 days.
She's waiting for the teleprompter.
Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know.
We got it.
We will do it.
Excuse me?
And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead.
Oh dear, poor Kamala. Okay, so public speaking is not really her thing. Kind of amazing considering she was a DA. She's very good at going after people, as we saw in the debate, and we saw in the 2020 debate. Remember, she went up one side and down the other of Joe Biden. Oh, that's a whole other story. We haven't even gotten there. Think about how much Joe Biden actually hates this woman right now. On Friday, she goes down and she's giving this big press conference about the hurricane. And suddenly Joe shows up on the podium at the White House for the first time ever. I don't think he's ever done this, to talk to reporters. I mean, talking about upstaging. I think there's a little bad blood there. And by the way, let me just tell you, I've heard this from sources that are close to Joe Biden and the Biden family. They hold grudges, big grudges. Joe's a little ornery and gets a little angry. And I don't blame him. I really don't, for being really angry with Kamala Harris right about now. And his wife should be really angry with Kamala Harris. Like they said, in Washington, if you want friends, get a dog. Because who's your friend? Your vice president decides to take it out from under you. Wild, right? Absolutely wild. Billy, good to see you back on the show. Billy Lynn saying, she doesn't even believe what she's saying. She definitely doesn't. She definitely doesn't. Mac doesn't buy the whole idea that she's somehow the underdog. Rebecca thinking that somehow her speech writers are trolling her with the 32 and repeating. I actually think it might have been a case of teleprompter going down and her mind just went boo, like she just wasn't there. Leslie pointing out, Leslie, good to see you, by the way. Leslie has been on this show, following this show from the very beginning, guys. I just want to point that out. We love Leslie. She used to tell me when my audio wasn't working, which by the way still happens. So, oops, it went by so fast. I didn't even see the full comment, Leslie, but she's saying, be prepared if she wins, right? Be prepared if Kamala Harris wins, because then it's like game over. And this is the point, ladies and gentlemen, that Elon Musk was trying to make. This may be the last chance we get. And so it's really important. I mean, I don't like to sound defeatist or anything, and believe me, if he doesn't win, I'm still going to be here every single day, here with you, and we're going to rally, okay? We're going to rally. I'm just going to set that stage. But I think he's got a good shot at winning right now, unless something really crazy happens. We get another hurricane now heading to Florida, may hit other parts like Georgia, North Carolina. And what are they trying to do? You listen to David Axelrod. He's like, okay, well, now we don't have to worry about North Carolina. That's my crass way of interpreting what he said. But he said it's suddenly gotten interesting because he doesn't think that the Trump voters are going to come out to vote. I'd like to say, you know what? Hey, buddy, they're going to be there, and they're going to be there in spades. So watch out. It doesn't have to just be one state. We got Wisconsin, we got Michigan, we got a lot of places where all of these votes matter. And Trump's got a real shot. Great to have you here. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you hit the bell. I'll be right back here live again with you tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. A pleasure.